I went to that island alone because the flight was cheap, and the weather had just started to cool. The tourist season was long over, most of the restaurants were closed, and the streets were empty. I had a cup of clam chowder with toasted bread at the pier, then dragged my suitcase for about 10 minutes until I reached a house I'd rented. It was a 2-story brown house with wooden siding. It didn't look old, but it wasn't new either. There were 2 dried-up lavender plants by the front door, and the mailbox hung crooked, like someone had tugged on it. The owner had left a note saying the key was under the flower pot. I flipped it over, and there it was. Inside, it was tidy, with a faint smell of wood mixed with dampness. I sat on the couch for a bit and opened the window to air it out. It was getting dark. The wind rattled the gaps in the door with a faint tapping sound. I closed the window, cooked some pasta with canned tomato sauce, ate quickly, and took a shower. The hot water in the bathroom was unreliable, scalding 1 second, freezing the next. I didn't stay in long. After drying off, I went back to the bedroom, scrolling through my phone, trying to load some info about the island. But the signal was weak, and the map wouldn't load. I gave up, turned off the lights, and lay down, listening to the soft wind outside the curtains. It didn't really sound like sea wind. I think it was around 2 in the morning when I woke up. My phone said 1:57 a.m. It wasn't because of a dream, it was because of a sound. Like someone dragging a chair, soft and intermittent. At first, I thought it was the table or chairs downstairs shifting, because the house was old, maybe the wind. But the more I listened, the less it sounded like the wind. It stopped for a while, then started again. This time, there was another sound like glass being lightly tapped. That's when I sat up, turned on my phone's flashlight, and slowly pointed it toward the bedroom door. The door was ajar, and through the crack I could see a faint light coming from downstairs, like a lamp had been left on. I remembered turning everything off before bed. I was sure I did. Before going down, I slipped on my slippers. My chest felt tight. I held my phone, the flashlight being trembling slightly. When I reached the stairwell and aimed the light, I saw the dining table in the living room. The 2 chairs had been moved. One of them was turned toward the wall. I didn't remember leaving them that way. The kitchen light was on. I went over, switched it off, and when I turned back, for just a second, it looked like there was something on the couch. But when I shone the light directly, there was nothing there. I went back upstairs slowly, each step creaking under my weight. I shut the bedroom door tight, and even pulled a chair to block it. I didn't hear anything else that night, but I barely slept. The next morning, when I went downstairs, there was a mug on the table filled with water. I knew I hadn't put it there. I hadn't even touched the mugs. They were on the rack by the sink, untouched the night before. I didn't dwell on it. I poured the water out, put the mug back, and told myself I must have forgotten. That afternoon I walked along the beach, all the way to the cliff, taking a few pictures. When it got dark, I stopped by the only cafe still open in town. I ordered a hot chocolate and a caramel pudding. A few locals were sitting in the corner talking. I couldn't hear everything, but I caught bits of it. They mentioned that house, saying, "It's been rented out again." I turned and looked at them, but they didn't say anything else. As I left, a woman hesitated and asked if I was staying there alone. I said yes. She pressed her lips together, but didn't respond. That night, the wind picked up, rattling the windows. I went upstairs early. This time I didn't turn off the lights downstairs. I left the living room light on. I also left the bedroom door cracked, but pulled the curtains shut. I didn't want to see strange shadows. Around 2 in the morning again, I woke up. No sound this time, just a feeling. It's hard to explain. Like the air got heavier. Like you just know you're not the only one awake. When I sat up, my phone screen lit up on its own. No one touched it, but it stayed on for a few seconds before going dark again. I walked to the door and peeked downstairs. The light was still on, but the shadow behind the couch looked thicker somehow. I wanted to go down, but my legs felt weak. I leaned against the wall, taking one step at a time. Halfway down, my phone lit up again by itself. When I reached the living room, I saw the dining table. Two sets of silverware were laid out neatly, perfectly mirrored across from each other. I had never set the table like that. I put them away in the kitchen. But when I turned around, one of the chairs was pulled out slightly again. I just stood there, staring at it. My only thought was to leave, but I didn't run. I pushed the chair back in, checked that all the windows were locked, and went back to the bedroom. This time, I shoved my suitcase against the door. I didn't sleep at all that last night. When the sun came up, I packed my things, skipped breakfast, and left. When I put the key back under the flower pot, the soil felt damp, like someone had just moved it. But it hadn't rained the whole time I was there. The day I left the island, the woman from the cafe happened to be at the pier. I walked up and thanked her. She asked if I'd seen her. I didn't answer. When I got home, I tried looking for that house again on the booking site, but it was gone. My reservation history had disappeared too, but I know I stayed there. Because on my phone, there are still a few photos I took inside. One is a selfie of me sitting on the couch. In the reflection of the window behind me, there's a faint blurry shape sitting at the dining table. In that photo, I'm smiling, but I remember I wasn't smiling when I took it. The rent was unbelievably cheap, so cheap it felt almost suspicious. When the landlord showed me the place, he kept emphasizing how solid the building was, how good the soundproofing was, how few neighbors there were. Perfect for someone who wants peace and quiet, he said. The apartment was old, though the carpet in the hallway was frayed at the edges. The paint on the stairwell railing was chipped, and the lock on the door made a dry scraping noise when you turned it. But the street outside was quiet. There was a coffee shop and a small grocery store nearby. It was convenient. I didn't overthink it and signed the lease. The first night was peaceful. I had takeout salad, drank a glass of white wine, unpacked a few clothes into the wardrobe, and passed out on the sofa from exhaustion. The second night, things got strange. I was just about to go to bed. I turned off the bedroom light. As the room went still and quiet, I heard it. A faint tapping sound coming from inside the wall. It wasn't the usual creaks and pops of an old building settling. It was deliberate, rhythmic, like someone gently tapping with their fingers. Thud, thud-thud, pause, thud. I froze for a moment, sitting up in bed, straining to listen. The sound was soft but clear, coming from the wall right beside my bed. I thought maybe it's a neighbor moving something, but that couldn't be. The unit next door was empty. The landlord had specifically mentioned that. Trying to calm myself, I got out of bed and pressed my ear closer to the wall. That made it worse. The tapping was clearer, and beneath it, there was something else, a faint, muffled whisper. I couldn't make out words, just the rhythm of someone murmuring under their breath, breathing, muttering. I stood there for a long moment, my heart starting to pound. Then I told myself it was probably just pipes echoing. Or maybe a small animal stuck inside the wall. I shoved in my earplugs, climbed back into bed, and forced myself to sleep. The third night, it happened again. This time, earlier. Just past 9 o'clock, the tapping started. Exactly the same rhythm. Thud, thud-thud, pause, thud. Like it was waiting for me. I didn't turn on the lights. I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the wall. After the tapping came the whispering again. Longer this time, like it was trying to form a sentence. Still muffled, too low to understand, but the sound was wrong. Like it was coming through layers and layers of wall, sinking into the room at damp air. Coming through layers and layers of wall, sinking into the room at damp air. My scalp prickled. I couldn't take it anymore. I called the landlord. He sounded calm, almost dismissive. Old buildings make noise, he said. Don't worry about it. Put on some music before bed. I tried. I really tried. On the fourth night, I decided to stay up later. I turned on every light in the apartment. I microwaved a slice of pizza and sat in the living room. Around 9:30, it started again, but this time it wasn't the bedroom wall. It was the wall by the living room window. The same rhythm. Then the whispering. I set down my plate slowly, walked over. I pressed my ear to the coal plaster. The voice was right there. So close it felt like someone was speaking to me from the other side. Hurried, muffled, but intentional. I stumbled back, panic bubbling up in my chest. I turned on every light in the apartment, but it didn't help. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was there. The next day, I ran into the upstairs neighbor, a woman in her 50s, cleaning her shoes by her door. I casually asked if she ever heard strange noises at night. She hesitated, for just a moment. Then she said, "Old buildings have sounds you can't explain. Don't think too much about it." And she quickly went inside. That night, I left the radio on. Light, calm music, just to drown out whatever was coming. But at exactly 11 o'clock, the radio clicked off on its own. The apartment went dead silent. Then, thud, 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 pause, thud. The wall, again, slower this time, like it knew I was listening. I sat frozen, every muscle tense. And then the whispering, clearer than before. I still couldn't make out the words, but the rhythm it matched my breathing. I don't know why I did it. Maybe I just snapped. I whispered, "Who's there?" The wall went quiet for a few seconds. And then, a soft laugh, so faint, so quick. But definitely, a laugh. My stomach twisted. I ran for the door. My hand gripped the doorknob. And it wouldn't turn. It was stuck, jammed. Behind me, thud, 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 thud. Faster now. I yanked the lock as hard as I could. Finally, it gave. I burst out of the apartment and bolted down the stairs, not stopping until I was standing on the street. Gasping for breath, I stayed outside until nearly dawn. When I finally went back in, the apartment was silent, nothing, like it had never happened. That night, I didn't even go to the bedroom. I slept on top of a pile of clothes in the living room, too afraid to move. The next morning, I called a locksmith and had the locks changed. I told the landlord there was probably something wrong with the walls and someone needed to check. He just said, casually, "People have heard things before." But when we opened the walls, there was nothing. 2 more nights, the tapping came back. No matter which room I was in, it followed. The whispering was longer now. Sometimes I almost understood the words just for a second before they dissolved back into static. I couldn't take it anymore. The next day, I bought a small suitcase at the grocery store. I packed up everything I could in an hour. That night, I didn't turn on the lights. I sat on the bedroom floor with the packed bag beside me, ready to run the second I heard it. 9 o'clock, it started. But this time, it didn't stop. The tapping sped up, over and over, until it was coming from every wall around me at once. Thud dash thud dash thud dash thud dash thud, like a crowd. The whispers flooded in, all at once, layered, overlapping. A tide of voices spilling through the walls. I grabbed my bag and ran for the door. My hand was on the knob when I heard it. One sentence, clear as day, right in my ear. "Don't go." I froze. Then I shoved the door open with all my strength and ran. I didn't stop until I was outside on the street with my suitcase, hailing the first cab I saw. The next day, I mailed the keys back to the landlord's drop box. I never went back. A few weeks later, I got a short email from him. It just said, "Someone new has moved in. They say it's very quiet at night.